I know it's smack dab right in the middle of a dead period. And Virginia Tech, right before we went live, was wrapped up in a pretty compelling basketball game. But we haven't been on here in a little while and had to give signs of life here because college football never sleeps as we welcome you back into another edition of Kolby's Corner Live, coming to you from Blacksburg, Virginia on Wednesday, February 11th, year of our Lord 2026. The snow and ice is finally melting from 2 Junior Day weekends past. Got a lot to get into. Going to try and answer some questions from the mailbag, talk a little bit of Team Scoop, and then see where else tonight goes. So make sure if you have questions, drop them in the live chat. It's sort of that middle of the dormant season. February is all dead. There's no padded team workouts with coaches. So it's kind of that dead time. So it's a little dormant, a little free to go off the path. I know we've done story time in the past. The Pro Day story made it. So if you have questions like that, drop them in the live chat. Frees us up a little bit. But if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It's college football all the time. Everyone's busy. I've been busy with school, but I really appreciate the continued support, the continued messages and feedback, because it really does mean a ton. So thank you. But if you're new, subscribe to the channel. It's free, helps me out a ton as we venture into this next stage of the career. And yeah, it helps me out a ton. Also, go check out the work over on vtscoop.com. Even in this dead period, offers are still being sent out today and throughout the time. So we got the latest over there. A ton of official visits being set up today. New scoop on that over on vtscoop.com. No better place for Virginia Tech team coverage, transfer portal, high school recruiting, you name it, it's over there on vtscoop.com. So make sure to check that out and also subscribe to the channel. But let's jump right into it. As Virginia Tech is not done making hires, maybe done on the field, but they made another off the field, bringing in former Virginia Tech offensive lineman Tyrell Smith, returning as a director of player development. I know there's a lot of crazy titles, but he's coming from Rutgers, where he worked under Greg Schiano, also in player development. He also has strength staff experience at Boise State. But Tyrell Smith, we first reported this news about a month ago to the day, January 12th, so a little over a month ago here on Kolby's Corner, and was finalized over the weekend. But Tyrell Smith is someone, 7-year Virginia Tech player, 67 career games played, 3-time team captain, left Virginia Tech with 2 master's degrees, knows the place really well. And he's someone where it's very interesting. He came in prior to Fuente, and I believe even left after Fuente. So he knows the bones of Virginia Tech, saw it under Frank Beamer, saw it under Justin Fuente, and just after. So obviously when you're somewhere for 7 years, I know the running joke today when you see players get eligibility for 9, 10 years, whatever the factor is. I think it's really big to bring in someone like Tyrell Smith who has seen Virginia Tech and knows how to operate it. So you can tell Franklin that, clearly values the culture fits. This is another example of where you heard him say at the press conference, trying to merge the best of VT with what we've done before, like at Penn State. So Smith knows Blacksburg, knows what works here, relatable, was in a similar position at Rutgers, just getting a little bit more familiar, close to home. He also knows how elite programs structure development, Rutgers, Boise, and what he was able to witness at Virginia Tech for some of those early seasons that he was there, is operating at a pretty high clip. So Franklin is still continuing to build and churn that off-the-field machine. I know we've gotten into facilities, and honestly, I'm a little worn out on all the facilities talk as we've got into, but as they keep making these hires, and as they're going to continue to make those hires, they're going to have to find places to field and keep all this staff that they're intending to bring in. So Merriman is going to continue to see development. I think you'll see that downstairs Merriman continue to evolve. But this is part of that next phase of building infrastructure to house all them. And now staff is pretty much still rolling on. I think you will continue to see some more analysts fill this void. Obviously, the NFL cycle is sort of ramping up right now. So you're seeing some movement from college to NFL and both on-field coaches, but also personnel. So something to watch there. But I think a really nice hire for Virginia Tech to get Tyrell Smith back in a player development role, and something that we've been tracking over on vtscoop.com. So make sure to get that VIP subscription or subscribe here, because you would have been alerted ahead of time. But moving right along with that, into a little bit of Team Scoop. It's very, very early on. Like I said, dead period. We're really scraping. We're working for all we can to get the latest intel for you here on the show on vtscoop.com. But a little bit of what we're hearing coming out of workouts and some of the team activities they've been able to hold. Now, like I said, to be very fair and honest, it's been pretty quiet overall. But and maybe even a segment that we need to do here in February to just keep the tracks moving as a bold prediction segment. And something, just a couple murmurs from a couple folks I've heard is, and this is very bold, so I don't know if I want to go out there on the record, but something to keep an eye on. I would say the Penn State former 5-star high school recruit transfer Luke Reynolds have heard very, very promising early returns. I mean, I would almost say if we want to do a bold prediction segment moving forward, I could see and envision him being Virginia Tech's second leading receiver next year behind probably the incumbent Aiden Green. But early returns have been that positive about him. And now the ceiling, the recruiting profile, what he brings. But even since getting to campus has been overwhelming positive news and notes, just even leaking out, and just some of the notes I've heard. Developed route tree, very developed route tree, has maintained good mass, something that you're going to have be able to block. But when you hear the way that he runs routes coming from different people, I think he could have the potential to have a very, very impressive season, especially with how Ty Howell is most likely going to want to utilize the tight end in the offense. So I think that's certainly a name to watch. Luke Reynolds, Penn State transfer tight end, have heard really, really positive things from him early. Now, they're in the middle of workouts. There's not pads on. They're not installing anything. But you can go routes on air, build timing and development. And I think something also working for Luke Reynolds, as opposed to some of these other guys, is his prior relationship with Ethan Grunkmeyer. He's already worked with him for a full cycle, I guess full 2 cycles. So there's a comfortability aspect there. And I think he's someone that can come in and hit the ground running relatively immediately. Have heard positive returns there. So that's a team scoop note. Some other notes that I think would be to keep an eye on. Messiah Mickens, as you can see there in the boot, 4-star composite running back, or I guess overall 4-star running back from Harrisonburg, Pennsylvania, 2026 signee, early enrolled. And we've been talking about potentially a redshirt there. As you can see, he's sitting there in a boot. Been talking about a redshirt that he was going to have to come in and probably change his frame already up. When you look at his height, weight, and we'll get into this a little bit, he was listed at 210 on recruiting services, came in measured at 217, and you see he's already sustained some injury. Now, don't know the extent of that, but being in a boot, I think this is someone who was already going to be a redshirt candidate just based on his frame and how he was going to have to transform that. When you look next to him, I think it's also pretty classic. The other person in that photo is Bill Davis, the Louisiana transfer. And Bill Davis came in a little bit above weight too, is where he was listed at. Bill Davis was listed at 225 by the Raging Cajuns and weighed in for Virginia Tech at 248. So I think that's also really interesting. But you look at guys like Jeff Overton, who also added close to 11 pounds. Working behind him, Bill Davis. Was Messiah Mickens going to factor into that? You obviously have the incumbent Marcellus Hawkins as well. I think this is a situation where already looking like you're dealing with an early injury, even however minor, probably shaping up for a red shirt. As well with that, Brody Meadows, stemming back to last camp, has been injured, was in a boot and continues to be in a boot. So that's something to watch. He also added a ton of mass as well. He last year on the roster, he weighed in at 332 pounds, is up to 351. So that's adding 19 pounds, not all the way back healthy. So him as well along the offensive line dealing with some injuries. We've talked about Logan Howland on the show, dealing with the shoulder injury coming from Oklahoma. So both those guys looking potentially a little limited, as well as something just to monitor here. Keelan Adams missed all of last year with an injury. Hearing that, he's still working off that. Someone I've been super high on, I think, will heavily factor into that wide receiver rotation, just has to get all the way back right. I think that's a situation to definitely monitor into spring and throughout. Can he get his legs back under him, get back comfortable, and rolling 100%? So that is something to watch. Just some team scoops. So I would say Luke Reynolds has had overwhelming positive returns in just early discussions. Messiah Mickens is probably a prime redshirt target, a little banged up here early. And then Keelan Adams working his way all the way back. That will certainly be something to keep an eye on as a wide receiver rotation continues to unfold. But I think that's something to watch. And then to the 2 offensive linemen, Brody Meadows in a boot and Logan Howland still working through the shoulder deal. If you're just joining, I know the basketball game's going on, but we had to come on here and go live just with a quick update. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the show with a friend. It will not be the dead period forever. There will be a ton of content coming out Looking forward to having some guys here for some Kolby's Corner conversations, trying to get Josh Clark on the show, some different players. So looking forward to rolling that out. It just gets a little tricky, not only having class myself, but then also juggling class. So if you have specific questions, dump them in the live chat. We'll touch on all of those. Make sure to go check out that catalog as well. And let me know what you want to see. But moving right along, the height weights drop. I know we went live last Wednesday, and it was a little bit of drinking from a fire hose, dealing with talking to Pride, talking to Franklin, but the updated roster dropped as well. So I thought some interesting notes just rattling off down the list. Tyler Mason, junior running back, went from 6 foot to 5'10". Jeff Overton, as we just touched on, the true freshman who had a very dynamic close to the season last year, that big touchdown run against Miami at home. He's added 11 pounds. I think he'll probably even add a little bit more mass. Now, he's not someone I think he's going to get to 210 playing weight, but still get close to around 200 pounds. I think that would be pretty good. Keelan Adams, as we touched on, lost 2 inches, went from 6'2" to 6 foot. Takai Heath, the Highland Springs wide receiver, was listed 4 pounds less, already a little bit light, maybe even a little generous there at 159. Harrison St. Germain, senior tight end, 249 down to 234, so lost 15 pounds. Kyle Altuner, all we heard last offseason when he first came into Virginia Tech was how much of a weight room demon he pretty much was. Has added 13 pounds, it looks like, going from 296 to 309. So on the interior, that's good mass added. I think one of the most surprising ones, though, was his former West Virginia transfer from a cycle ago, Gavin Crawford. Well, this is at 6'3", 332 pounds, is down 3 inches to 6 feet, 319. So lost 3 inches and 13 pounds from his prior height weight to his updated height weight. So I hope when I go back to the doctor, I don't lose 3 inches because we're already struggling as it is. But I thought that was really interesting. You know, obviously going to have to – he played close to, I think, 150 snaps, 2 games there during the season. So, you know, he was someone who factored in at that guard spot when Virginia Tech really was kind of piecing it together, just trying to see who could fill the void. Montavious Cunningham, 7th-year player, or looking for a 6th year of eligibility, him and Kamari Copeland, those two class of 2021 guys, lost 16 pounds, down from 318 to 302. As we touched on, Brody Meadows added 19 pounds. He's been banged up, so hasn't been able to work out. Gabe Williams, obviously the story a couple seasons ago, Clemson game where he had that tragic injury and tragic off-the-field ordeal. He's up 24 pounds from 205 to 229. We'll see if he's able to keep that on or even add some more mass before the season, but that's a very positive sign. He's back full go. So with everything that he's endured, that's a very good sign as that linebacker position comes into a clearer picture. JoJo Krim has lost some weight, down from 171 to 162. So now even Jamari DeLoach, listed at 168, is heavier than JoJo Krim as that cornerback position sort of shapes itself out. Jordan Bass, the former linebacker who's playing safety, up 9 pounds, 205 to 214. I thought that was interesting. Quentin Reddish, also at safety, probably one of the most interesting listings as well, down 31 pounds from 205 to 174. This is someone who probably slots in line to start for Virginia Tech at safety. So losing 31 pounds, was banged up with the shoulder deal last season, but something where he's really going to have to gain that back to get back into game shape. And then for some of the new guys that listed out, Messiah Mickens adding 7 pounds. Among the true freshman offensive linemen, I don't think any of them will seriously factor into the rotation this year for Virginia Tech. But one that I think will be probably poised to play earliest is Ben Azuka. He has the most legit frame, 6'2", 319, and can move really well. It's not bad weight, as you'll see on some of these guys like Roseby Labindis. He's close to 345. That's one where he's going to have to reshape his body, and he was always going to be kind of be that project. Tyrell Simpson, 6'7", 366 pounds. The largest player on the team by far. That's one where he was hurt as well his senior year. He's definitely going to have to transform his body before he sees the field, but you'd rather have the frame and have to take off it than add to it. Bill Davis, as we touched on, Louisiana running back, a running back weighing 248 pounds. Here, we'll pop the picture back up of him sitting off there to the right. Definitely an absolute hoss right there. I think they have him at 5'9", 248. I don't know if he's all a 5'9", but that's what they have him at. Matt Henderson, the transfer tight end, down 16 pounds to 230. Logan Howland, Oklahoma offensive tackle, has lost some weight going from 322 to 307. Is that related to not being able to lift weights? We'll see. 2, I think, was very interesting as well. And then we'll wrap this here. Edge prospects from Penn State, transfers Cortez Harris and Malachi Williams. Virginia Tech is really going to have to see who steps up at edge, at that premier position, who's going to become a reliable threat to play there at the edge position. Cortez Harris down 20 pounds from 245 to 225. Malachi Williams down 22 pounds from 248 to 226. So those are 2 guys that you thought can maybe factor in that rotation that have both lost 20-plus pounds, which is not ideal for that edge rusher position. You don't really want those guys at 220. I mean, if they get closer to 230, but when you see those figures of 245, 248, it's just that was tough to see, I think, for Virginia Tech probably. And then Curtis Jones Jr., the West Virginia linebacker transfer, a little bit of a gadget guy, scored a touchdown for them, does a little bit of everything, lost 3 inches in height from 6'4" to 6'1". So those are just some notes on that. We didn't touch on that in the show. Nothing too groundbreaking probably, but some interesting notes. And we got Ashton Crowder here in the comment section. We'll tie this in. Why were guys listed as way taller than they actually are? So it's a little bit different, and it varies from place to place. All the time, different schools lie about heights and weights for different reasons. Even coming out of high school, for recruiting profiles, if you go to a certain camp, you get verified measurements. If it's self-reported by a school or a coach, it's obviously going to be different than actual measurements. Schools also measure differently. Like you see it all the time. Guys go down to the Senior Bowl, they get one measurement on their hands for the NFL draft, and they go to the Combine and they get a different measurement, which is very ludicrous to me. It seems kind of easy that you should have one uniform practice, but you don't. And you run into this issue where you see guys losing 3 inches. You let them have their shoes on. You let them, bow their toes out, get a couple extra inches, or whatever it is. Obviously, I think Virginia Tech took the more uniformed approach here. Sounds like they made them take their shoes off and get more verified measurements, as opposed to different programs that might be a little bit more lax or self-reporting. So there's different advantages for coaches wanting to make a roster look a certain way or just whatever, but it's been happening forever. It was just always interesting to see the updated one. So definitely some changes, especially on height. I think most guys probably lost close to an inch on height, which could just be shoes or whatever. But yeah, that was height weight. If you're just joining, it looks like Virginia Tech 40-33. Virginia Tech's up at halftime. Pretty big quad one opportunity on the road at Clemson. So if you're joining here for the halftime show, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video. I'm trying to shake off, it looks like another cold. Can't not stay healthy, even though we're just buzzing around, staying busy. But appreciate the support. It truly does mean the world. So thank you guys who are always with me, Mondays and Wednesdays, and whenever else we go live. It truly does mean the world. Working on some exciting content. I know I've been saying that, but trying to get some interviews set up. And yeah, there's a question from a couple episodes ago, and I forget what it was, asking about when spring practice started. Have that date after. So Virginia Tech spring break this year is March 7th to March 15th. So that first spring practice will be March 17th. So we're talking about guys, we're talking about winter workouts. It's a dead period. They're still well over a month away from pads going on for spring practice. So that first spring practice for Virginia Tech will be March 17th. It's currently February 11th. So still quite a bit of the offseason to go through. But yeah, just a note on that. I know there are some questions. So March 17th, mark your calendars, about a month exactly before the spring game, April 18th. And yeah, one last note, NFL Draft Combine sent out invites to 300-plus athletes today. No Virginia Tech players were invited. I think it will be safe to say that that's the last time under James Franklin's tenure at Virginia Tech that it's going to be that way. Obviously, the talent he was able to bring in and develop at Vanderbilt, at Penn State, and the level that he's going to bring to Virginia Tech, I don't think you'll see another cycle go by where Virginia Tech doesn't have players invited to the Combine and in that cycle. Now, last season, a season to go, Bayshall Tootin and Jalen Lane had very impressive Combines, but I think the talent level in one offseason, you've already seen the increase, but I think this will be the last time in a while for Virginia Tech, just with the talent that James Franklin's going to be able to attract to Virginia Tech, that you won't see them invited to the Combine. And then sort of tying in with that, send out the feelers over on the website to try and get interest to see people to drop questions for the mailbag. And this ties in with it. Got ATC4VT saying, how do you see this 2027 class shaping up? Can Virginia Tech get inside the top 20? Yeah, it's a good question there. And like I said, James Franklin is going to attract that top talent. So I don't want to go too deep into the hypotheticals there because, yeah, Virginia Tech could get into the top 20. And I could certainly see a world where they did that. In 2 weeks, he was able to get into the top 25. I think you're going to see classes in that range. He's going to be very competitive for prospects and stick his nose into battles that Virginia Tech hasn't been in, let alone close out and win some of those. Tight recruitments. You saw making Noah Glover's top 6, really getting involved. When you see the official visits that they're getting set up, it's very competitive prospects. So they've done really well there on different fronts. But top 20, that's lofty, but I think Virginia Tech will certainly be in the mix. And Franklin has rapidly increased the ceiling there. So I know it's a little bit of a shorter show. Appreciate everyone tuning in here for about 20 minutes. See if anyone has any questions in the live chat. If not, we'll wrap it up. I'll try and get back healthy again, and we'll run it back next week. Yeah, no, I appreciate all the support, everyone. And like I said, it's the off season. We don't try to say that, but it's a little bit more of a dormant time. Going to try and bring some different content. Honestly, hand up, a little bit scared to branch out on some of that more story time type content, but at this point, you got to make something exciting. So we'll make sure to branch out, bring some more fun story time content, and also hopefully have some players on for interviews here to spell this downtime. But appreciate it. Enjoy the second half of the basketball game. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of your night. Peace out, and God bless.